Most people believe that once a car hits 150,000 miles, it's living on borrowed time. They think reliability is just luck, or something reserved for those legendary diesel trucks we've talked about on this channel before. But that is a lie. Reaching 500,000 miles isn't about magic. It is about engineering physics and specific disciplined habits. Whether you drive a Toyota, a Ford, or even a brand known for being fragile, there is a science to longevity that most mechanics know but rarely explain. Today, we aren't just giving you generic tips. We are breaking down the fluid chemistry, the cold start physics, and the engineering secrets that allow a standard combustion engine to survive 500,000 miles. Welcome back to Auto Genius. Let's make your car indestructible. To understand how to hit 500,000 miles, you first have to understand what kills an engine. It is rarely a sudden explosion. It is almost always a slow accumulation of microscopic failures. When engineers design a vehicle, they test for duty cycles. A car driven 500,000 miles on the highway often has less internal wear than a grocery getter with 100,000 miles of city driving. Why? Because the greatest enemy of any machine is the thermal cycle, going from cold to hot and back to cold. If you want your vehicle to join the 500,000 mile club, you have to stop thinking about your car as an appliance and start thinking about it as a thermal system. Every time you turn that key, you are initiating a chemical and physical process. If you manage that process correctly, the metal components of your engine, the pistons, the crankshaft, the bearings, are essentially infinite. They only fail when the support systems around them fail. In this video, we are going to cover the 5 pillars of extreme longevity. We are going to debunk the Italian tune-up, look at why rubber is the silent killer, and expose the lifetime fluid scam that manufacturers use to sell you new cars. Number 1. The cold start physics. Let's start with the single most critical moment of your engine's life, the cold start. Engineering data suggests that up to 90% of all engine wear occurs in the first 10 to 20 seconds of operation. Here is the physics of why. When your car sits overnight, gravity does its job. The oil drains out of the cylinder head, out of the galleys, and settles in the pan. When you turn the key, for a split second, metal is spinning against metal with only a microscopic boundary layer of old oil protecting it. This is called boundary lubrication. You want to get to hydrodynamic lubrication, where the parts float on a pressurized wedge of oil as fast as possible. So, how do you manage this? First, viscosity matters. If your manual says 0W20, do not switch to a thicker 10W30 thinking it protects better. In a cold start, you need flow, not thickness. The 0W ensures the oil shoots to the top of the engine instantly. Second, delete the old warm-up myth from your brain. You do not need to idle your car for 10 minutes in the driveway. In fact, doing so is harmful. An idling engine warms up very slowly. While it's cold, the fuel mixture is rich, meaning extra gasoline is injected. This excess gas washes the oil off the cylinder walls and dilutes the oil in the crankcase, reducing its ability to protect. The engineering secret? Start the car, wait about 15 to 30 seconds for the oil pressure to stabilize, and then drive. But, and this is the big but, drive gently. Keep the RPMs under 2,500. You want to put a light load on the engine to warm it up quickly, getting the oil to operating temperature so it can do its job. But you don't want to stress the metal while it is still expanding. Number 2. Fluid chemistry beyond the sticker. Now, let's talk about the lifeblood of the vehicle. If you follow the manufacturer's normal maintenance schedule, your car will likely fail right after the warranty expires. That is by design. To hit 500,000 miles, you need to ignore the marketing term lifetime fluid. In the world of engineering, there is no such thing as a lifetime fluid. Transmission fluid, for example, contains friction modifiers and detergents. Over time, heat shears down the molecular structure of the fluid, and the clutch material suspended in the fluid turns it into liquid sandpaper. If you leave lifetime fluid in your transmission for 150,000 miles, it's often too late to change it without causing slipping. The secret? Drain and fill your transmission fluid every 30,000 to 60,000 miles, regardless of what the manual says. Then there is coolant. It's not just blue or green water, it is a chemical buffer designed to prevent corrosion. Over time, coolant becomes acidic. When this happens, a process called electrolysis begins. Your engine essentially turns into a battery, where the coolant carries an electrical charge that eats away at the aluminum in your radiator and heater core from the inside out. You won't see this damage until a gasket blows at 200,000 miles. Changing coolant every 3 years resets the pH balance and stops this internal rot. And finally, Brake fluid. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the air. A 3% water content in your brake fluid can lower the boiling point significantly, but worse, that water pools in your calipers and ABS modules, rusting them internally. Flashing that fluid every 2 years is a non-negotiable habit for the 500,000 club. Number 3. The silent killer, rubber and plastics. We often obsess over the metal parts, the pistons and gears, but in the quest for 500,000 miles, the metal rarely fails first. The silent killer of high-mileage cars is organic material, rubber and plastic. Modern engines are surrounded by polymer chains that degrade with heat and time. A simple vacuum leak from a cracked $2 hose can cause a lean condition, raising combustion temperatures enough to burn a valve. A failed PCV, positive crankcase ventilation valve, can cause pressure to build up in the engine, blowing out your main seals and causing massive oil leaks. Here is the maintenance protocol. Every 10 years or 150,000 miles, you need to do a rubber refresh. This means replacing coolant hoses before they burst. It means changing accessory belts. But most importantly, it means looking at your suspension bushings. Worn control arm bushings don't just make noise. They change the geometry of how your car absorbs impact. This sends shock waves through the chassis and the drivetrain, accelerating wear on CV joints and transmission mounts. And we have to talk about timing belts versus chains. If your car has a rubber timing belt, it is a ticking time bomb. If it snaps, the pistons smash into the valves and your engine is dead instantly. There are no warning signs. If the interval is 90,000 miles, do it at 80,000. If you have a timing chain, listen for the death rattle on startup, which indicates the plastic tensioners are failing. Yes, even chain-driven engines rely on plastic guides. Replacing these guides at 200,000 miles is often the difference between a car that dies and one that goes another 300,000. Number 4. Driving habits and the Italian tune-up. We've covered the garage work. Now let's talk about the driver. How you drive dictates how long the machine lasts. You may have heard of the Italian tune-up, the idea that redlining your engine occasionally cleans out the carbon. Is this a myth? Not entirely. In the age of direct injection engines, carbon buildup on intake valves is a major issue. Getting the engine hot and running at higher RPMs can help burn off some deposits and keep the catalytic converter clean. However, this must be done on a fully warmed-up engine. Revving a cold engine to clean it out is just engine abuse. But there is a habit far more dangerous than high RPMs, and that is lugging. Lugging happens when you ask for high power at low RPM, like flooring the gas in 6th gear while going up a hill. This creates massive cylinder pressure before the oil pump is spinning fast enough to provide maximum flow. This squeezes the oil film out of the rod bearings and causes metal-on-metal contact. If you need to accelerate, downshift. Let the engine spin. RPMs are not the enemy. Load is. For those of you with turbocharged engines, which is most modern cars, you have one extra rule. Turbos spin at over 100,000 RPM and get incredibly hot. If you drive hard and then immediately shut the engine off, the oil inside the turbo cokes, turning into a solid sludge that blocks lines and kills the turbo. The engineering fix? The cool down. If you've been driving on the highway, spend the last mile driving gently, or let the car idle for 60 seconds before shutting it off. This keeps oil cycling through the turbo to carry away the heat. Number 5. The Fix It Now philosophy. Finally, achieving 500,000 miles requires a psychological shift. It is the philosophy of fix it now. Cars suffer from the broken window theory. When a small trim piece breaks or a weird rattle starts and you ignore it, you subconsciously stop caring about the car. But mechanically, failures cascade. A bad oxygen sensor leads to a clogged catalytic converter. A clogged converter creates back pressure that destroys piston rings. A small oil leak ruins a coolant hose. The owners who reach 500,000 miles treat every noise as an investigation. They don't wait for the breakdown. They repair the symptom before it becomes a disease. 500,000 miles isn't luck. It's clean fluids, gentle cold starts, fresh rubber, and mechanical sympathy. If you treat your machine with respect, it will return the favor. If you want to know which specific engines make this journey the easiest, the true legends of reliability, check out our video on the indestructible diesel legends right here. And if you learned something new today, hit that like button and subscribe to Auto Genius for more engineering truths. Drive safe, and I'll see you in the next one.